Hi, and welcome to Therapy Explained. My name is Denise Cantor, and I'm the therapist of color for people of color. Today, we're going to be talking about trauma. The reason that I've chosen this topic for today's video is because we've all most recently experienced a potentially traumatic situation. Last Wednesday, there was an attempted coup of our government, and we all watched through our TVs, our phones, our tablets, our computers, and this was really scary for a lot of us to watch. It might have brought back memories of other experiences where we felt in fear of our safety, of our bodily safety, or of the safety of our country or the people that we love. Now, the reason that we felt triggered, whether or not we were actually experiencing the situation, is because our body is built to respond to situations that are threatening in a way that makes all of our senses turn on and all of our body be prepared to get ourselves out of this situation or to fight our way out of this situation. I want to go over some of the physiological things that happen for us as we experience a perceived or real threat to our safety. I want to preface this by saying how amazing our brains are. Our brain's main responsibility is to keep us alive. The way that it keeps us alive is by making sure that it is able to read the world around us and to remember the things that scared us or harmed us. And this is the process by which triggers are unfortunately developed. So when our brain is in a situation that reads as a threat, it will turn on our heart, our lungs, our eyes, our ears, all to 100%. Our heart rate will increase, our breathing will also become rapid and shallow, our pupils will dilate, and our hearing will sharpen. The purpose of this is for our body, our brain, to be able to obtain as much information as possible about the moment that we're currently in that is dangerous. It wants to be able to gauge, what is this threat? How far away is it? How big is it? Can I run away? Do I fight? What is the best way to keep myself safe in this situation? And in order to do that, it needs to turn everything on to get all this information and to prepare our body for whatever potential action might be the best. Whether that is to fight or to run, that is why our body starts pumping all this blood and our muscles also begin to tense. Ideally, the way that this system functions is that we're able to see a threat, we're able to choose what the best action is, and then our body is able to return to normal functioning. I also want to mention that this particular process is not something that we're doing consciously. Our brain is doing all of the work in the background, and in the moment, what might be happening for you is a lot of thoughts of fear. You might feel almost frozen, or you might have difficulty processing things more intellectually or do too much problem solving because your brain has taken over. It's decided that in this moment, it doesn't need to problem solve. It doesn't care about hunger or tiredness or what the weather is. In this moment, the only thing that it needs to worry about is to keep you safe. And this is a great reaction for us when we are in an actually dangerous situation or a situation that can threaten us so that we can stay safe. And again, if the system works well, we're able to go back to regulate and to feel safe again. The problem with this is if for any reason we are stuck in this process, our body has a really hard time understanding when it is safe again. This happens if we grow up in a home with domestic violence or in a community where there is a lot of gang violence or intimidation by government officials. This happens a lot in BIPOC communities where there is institutionalized racism, microaggressions, outright racism. If you're constantly exposed to threats to your safety, whether that's bodily or emotional or perceived or real, these effects are still present for your body. Our brain then feels like it's constantly threatened. Again, if you grew up this way and you're stuck living this way, your brain then is stuck in this process and doesn't find or believe that it is actually safe. People who've experienced trauma tend to report a lot of problems with sleep, concentration, sitting still, a lot of muscle aches and body aches because your body is constantly tense. And this is because, again, your body is stuck in this process. It feels like it's not safe, and so your brain thinks, okay, I need to be constantly gathering information around me. It's in hypervigilant mode. This is also how triggers are developed. In a really scary situation, like I mentioned, your body, your brain is gathering as much information about this moment as possible. That is because it doesn't want you to ever be in this situation ever again. So it will try to memorize the sights, the sounds, the feelings, any tastes, any smells, because it wants again to remember everything about it to keep you safe moving forward. This is why some people who've experienced trauma might not remember details of people's faces or colors, but might remember smells or sounds or how their body felt in that moment. Perhaps they were really cold or really hot. And that is because, again, our body and our brain was trying to get certain cues so that in the future we know how to stay away from something. A good example of our trauma response working very well is when we're young and perhaps we cut ourselves or we touch fire and burn ourselves. We know now when something feels warm to stay away from that. That is going to hurt us. And that's great because we can learn to avoid things that can hurt us. But if we're stuck in this system, or if our brain thinks that particular things or reads particular things as threatening when they're not, it makes it difficult for us to function. As far as racism goes, that's a very real experience and a very real threat to our safety at times. And so that is very valid, and it can feel really hard for us to feel safe again. That's why it's important to find spaces where we feel safe and welcomed, as many as possible. As far as how to deal with traumas like this, like I mentioned, our brain perceives something as threatening or reads it as threatening, and then it turns everything on. So the way to manage this is to work backwards and try to turn things back down to the normal functioning level so that our body reads, okay, I'm safe. Some really good tools to doing this are things like meditation, yoga, deep breathing, any sort of grounding tool, perhaps maybe even coloring or journaling, a way to help your body relax and sit still. I know that it might be hard for you to do because our brain, again, doesn't feel safe. It's going to be working all the time. And so telling it to stop is kind of fighting against it. But remember, you're in this stage and in this moment, stuck in this process of constantly being on and reading and getting information from the world around you. But if you breathe, if you relax your muscles, you can teach your body that you're safe, that you're okay. And I love activities like meditation and yoga because that's what they focus on. It's about learning how to slow your breath down, how to unclench your jaw, and how to untighten all those pieces of your body to relax. There might be something in your particular culture that you do that has these qualities that help you learn how to stop and breathe and relax. We do a lot of limpiezas in our culture that help us bring in a lot of smells and sounds that might require some essential oils, a lot of breathing. Sometimes things like prayer can also be meditative, to sit and to pray and to have this new rhythm to our body to again send messages to our brain that we're safe. So search in your culture, search in your habits in your past for things that might be able to help you feel more grounded and start to teach your body that you're safe. Now, I cannot make a video and I cannot talk to you about trauma without also talking to you about therapy. it is also very important that you're able to find support from a mental health professional who has experience in helping you be able to process trauma in a safe space, so that you're not re-traumatized or triggered in moments when you don't feel like you're capable of managing them. It's also important it's also important that you can also find a therapist that is culturally aware and culturally competent of your identity, so that they can also help you find strengths and ways to use who you are to help you heal your trauma, that understands and knows how to read the difference between potentially re-triggering you versus helping you strengthen things within you. I'm going to go ahead and leave some directories that I have found helpful for other people that I have worked with down below, so that you can find a therapist if you're interested in doing so. And of course, I'm also going to be publishing a cheat sheet that's going to summarize everything that we talked about today. But here are some things that I want you to be able to take with you from today. Number one, your body doesn't necessarily have to go through an extremely traumatizing situation. It doesn't always have to be like going to war or having been physically abused in order to be traumatized. Yes, that is trauma, and for something like that, you definitely want to seek mental health help. But sometimes our trauma looks like being separated from our parents or grandparents, being threatened, our safety being threatened because of things like racism and discrimination, or perhaps violence in our community, poverty. All of that can also be experienced as trauma, and it's real. And it also includes seeing things through your phone that are scary. When people are threatening to hurt people who look like you, that is also trauma. So remember, it doesn't always have to be what we think about in the movies as trauma. The other thing I want you to take from it is that it's not something that's happening to you consciously. Your body is doing this because the system is built to help you. That's what your brain is trying to do, is to keep you alive. And what we want to do now is teach our brain and our body that we're okay now, and that we're safe right now, at least in this space, where you're able to create some sort of safety or some sense of safety in your own home, hopefully, or at least a space outside of your home where you do feel safe. And lastly, I want you to be able to reflect and look at your own culture and your identity as a BIPOC person, and look at strengths. There are so many really wonderful things about who we are as people of color that serve as strengths that help us be able to fight and manage through all of the traumas that we live through. So I encourage you to look at that in that way. And of course, lastly, if you feel that you need professional help for mental health services, go ahead and look at the resources down below, and also on my website at talktherapy.org. Like I mentioned, I will be sharing a cheat sheet that summarizes what we talked about today. That is going to be up on my Instagram. So if you want to go ahead and follow me there, I'm at TOC Therapy, because after all, I am the therapist of color. And if you liked this video or found it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe for more videos on all things mental health. And if you liked it a lot, make sure that you share with people that you think might find this video helpful as well. Thank you for watching today, and I hope to see you again in the next one.